Well, I'm Mildred Evans McNeal. My mother was Hazel Martin Evans Prim, and she married James Evans. And this room is a bedroom that I think was built on after the main house was built. This is the bed, the original bed that Grandma and Grandpa had with the flat springs. And after Grandpa died in 1915. My father died in 1914, so I came here when I was 2.5 years old. So then after my father died in 1914, Mother moved here because she didn't have any means of keeping me, because the house they lived in over on Summit View Road had just been built, and Mother didn't really have too much money to take care of things. So we moved in with Grandma, and I assume that we had the front bedroom, which would be the bedroom over there, and Grandma and Grandpa would sleep here. Then after he died, Grandma put Rhea in here with her. Now Rhea was the third daughter, and Rhea was in a wheelchair because when I moved in here with Mother, I was running around and chasing around, and they were afraid Rhea would fall on me, so they got a wheelchair for Rhea, and of course then she got real heavy. Then after Grandpa died, Rhea came in and slept in this room with Grandma. And Grandma had to take care of cows and chickens. And while she'd go out in the morning, she'd get up real early in the morning, go out and milk the cow, and she would bring the milk in, and it wouldn't be pasteurized. It'd be just nice and warm. She'd pour it in a bottle and bring it into me. I can still remember drinking out of that bottle. I'll just imagine that. So that's the way things went. All that was in this room was a bed, a corner dresser, and a potty chair. That was all that's in this room. After this room was changed from a bedroom to a parlor, the essay piano was in that corner. And Lucille Sharp was across the street, and she was a wonderful piano teacher, and she and Don, her husband, would play and sing, and I would just love to hear them. But I couldn't have music lessons because I think music lessons probably cost a quarter. We didn't have any quarters. So I just been here and pound and pound and pound. Then over here was a bookcase. Aunt Helen had that, and some of her children have it. It had a rolled edges on the top, and was a two-door, glass on one side, glass on the other. This I gave back because it is Grandma made this. This is a plaster cast of Mother's hand, a nickel with a V on it, probably the date of Mother. These are I think they've changed these. These are paper roses. Now they're made out of tissue paper and wax paper, and then just have the seams in the center and a few leaves. Grandma used to make these. She made a lot of them. I think she may have sold them. That was also in her wedding bouquet. She was very talented. She painted dishes with oil paint. She made dolls and sold them at the doll factory. The name of the doll factory was Bernice Simon's Doll Factory. And then she also made buttonholes for Aunt Emma, who was a professional seamstress. She made little tiny buttonholes, very, very neat. Grandma was neat, and she could do a lot of things in the way of craft. There was a settee here, but the arms came out straight, and straight across there and straight out here. And it seems to me it was covered with green velvet, the back and front, as in here as I can remember. And there was a table here, and on this table, Grandma had bought each of the girls, or Aunt Helen and Mother, a light that had a globe on it with roses or whatever it was. And that was nice. That's about what was in this room. But this was the parlor. This is the door where we would see the gypsies outside. And Grandma said, "You get behind that door," because gypsies take little girls. So I know we had gypsies that came every once in a while. And along here was a couch with a leather puffs and a rounded head. And I would lay down on that couch and cover up. And Aunt Florence and Grandma would sit in the 2 rocking chairs out there. And I think, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna see what they're gonna say. Because Aunt Florence lived down here on the hill, you know, right beside the schoolhouse. That was her sister. And she would come up, she had her shawl on, and she'd take her shawl off and lay on the chair. And then they'd sit there in front of the fire, and they would talk and talk and talk. But I never heard anything they said because I was asleep. Then at Christmas time, Grandma would put a table here, and she would go out and get a branch. And on that branch, she would put a puffs of cotton, and icicles. And the icicles were nothing more than a tuna fish can key that you would open the tuna fish can with, and then you pull it down like this. That was her icicle. And she covered half shells of walnuts with foil, and I think that would come off of chewing gum. It never came off of a foil in a box. It never came off of that because we just didn't have it. Grandma saved every scrap of foil she could get a hold of. So we had ice-strung cranberries and popcorn, and she had me make rings, so we had chains of rings around there, and it was really nice. Really nice. So, but we never had much for Christmas. Rhea wore socks, kind of latch, you know, the men would put in their boots, and she would always get that. Grandma made Rhea's dresses and her slips, and she would always give her socks and those little, whatever they're called, for her feet. Because after being in a wheelchair, Rhea her legs were real big, and she couldn't find it while she could serve lunch. This is a soapstone. Barbara, come on over here. Tell us about it. You used it.
I can remember at home on the farm how we used to heat these on the stove and wrap them in a newspaper and take them up and put them on our pillow first, and then slide them down the bed and put them in our feet when we got there. Our pillow was warm, the bedroom was cold, and it was wonderful when you went to bed. But in the morning when you stubbed your toe on a cold soapstone, you weren't quite as happy as when you went to bed in the evening. Didn't really appreciate these until I'm getting older and realized that it was a luxury to go to bed in a nice warm bed, thanks to my parents.
We had also used flat irons because we had 4 children, and it was cold enough in the upstairs room. It froze ice. The girls didn't appreciate that. Kids didn't appreciate that very much because it was too cold. Well, Grandma's rocking chairs were about in here. She had 2 rocking chairs. There's this grosgrain carpet that I keep talking about. It was in widths about this wide, and it had to be loomed because it was sewed together. So it had to be loomed. Something like the weaving that I have done. And when I swept, I got big enough to sweep. I swept all the way around the room, while all the dirt in there. And I swept up. I don't know if that's the way you should sweep it out, that's what I did. And this corner was the Victrola that Mother taught when she was teaching. She taught, she graduated from high school in 1907. And then she went to normal school. She didn't get to go to Wesleyan like she should have because she didn't have a car. There wasn't any car available. I didn't have money enough for a car. And she couldn't afford to stay all night, so she had to give up this free tuition at Ohio Wesleyan that she had earned. So she went to normal school, and then she taught down the river one year, and she taught it with the north. And after my father died, she got her reinstated her teaching certificate. I think she taught just 1 year. And then she went down to the CNO in Columbus, and she was the embargo clerk. And there she navigated the trains on their rails all over the United States. And I think that's quite a responsibility. Grandpa, of course, was at the railroad station, Hocking Valley Railroad Station. She also worked for Claude Gardner at the post office. So Grandma had, after the Victrola was here, And here was a square table. And on this table, Grandma had a oil lamp, and she had a kerosene light, and she had her curling iron, and she had a comb, and she had a rocker here that had brown arms and black leather, and she would sit here and beside this table, and she would curl her hair. She stuck with the curling iron in the lamp top, and then she curled her hair. That's why I have always worn my hair with curls in the front whenever I could. And she had earrings, plain gold round earrings, and I wear that too. Then she also took the poker and she stuck it in the fireplace, and she took that out and she curled her hair, but of course her hair, you could smell it because it was burning. And the mirror hung here, the Larkin Tea Company mirror hung here. And I always told Grandma, I said, Grandma, I'd like to have that chair in that mirror. And I got them. We wore the chair out, but I still have a mirror. I think that's probably it. The lights, let's see, there was one chain, it came down, there was 2 lights. You tipped the top white chimney over, and then you filled the bottom, and that's also the way you lit it. But they went up and down too. Yeah. I kept Martha Joan, my sister. She was born in 1922, and the folks moved to Prospect. My stepfather and my mother moved to Prospect in 1925. So Martha June was about, as I figured, 9 months old, and they took me to the Hocking Valley and put me on the train with this baby. And I brought her to Powell, and Grandma met us and brought us down. And I know that we slept in the bed in this room, and I had to get the bottle and feed her and change her and everything. That looks like a very familiar shawl. Would that be Grandma's shawl? I don't know. Can I look?
Sure.
It looks like Grandma's shawl. Grandma Lowry's shawl, Hazel Martin's ring. Yep. Yep, that's Grandma Martin's. That's like Aunt Florence. And when Aunt Florence came up to visit Grandma, she always wore a shawl. I was sure that was familiar. I recognized it. I always liked the furniture in this room because this had a cherry bedroom suit. The dresser was here. It had a big mirror and it had 3 drawers down below the mirror. The cherry bed was here. It was a nice suit. I like this, and Grandma took that every place she went. These are the young folks that I would have graduated with had I remained at Powell. Iona Carlson lived down there near Dorothy and Doris. Anita Christ, her mother taught school. Anita still is around. I see her name in the paper where she gives things. She is not married. Now, Carrie Butcher married Kidwell, and I see her name, and I hear her. She went to Ohio State same time I did. Mary Askins, or Ellen Askins, one of them married Charles Butterfield, his brother. Jane Case, one day when I was here, she had given some books, and I was able to buy a book that she gave this society. She was a classmate of mine. She raised lambs. She lived down on the river. And Dorothy's father was the station agent after Grandpa Martin died. Frank Bales. Her dad was Frank Bales, and he always would cook turtle, and when I come down, he wanted me to taste it. I didn't want to taste it. And Doris, I don't know too much about Doris. Don't know too much about her. One day when I talked to Dorothy, which was about a year ago, she told me about the asperity bags. And she said you always wore an asperity bag around your neck, and it had a lob on it, which didn't smell good. And you wore these real high stockings that come up your leg quite a ways. So there was an old tree somewhere between her house and the schoolhouse, and she would dump her asperity bag and her long socks in that tree and pick them up on the way home. I also wore sulfur in my shoes. Anything to keep disease away. I don't think I was sick very much. I had a number of these. This isn't mine, but mine were for Prospect. I played basketball and baseball, and so I earned these letters also, and I've given them to my children. Now this room had a closet. The other rooms did not have closets. And that's nice. I said, this is Lovett Taft. Lovett and I were born the same day, but we had different doctors. I had Dr. Campbell. And they took the other doctor. This room did not look like this when I was here, or I'd have been through everything, because I was a little girl that was into everything. I don't remember how old I was, but I had to be 8, 9, 10, because I came back and stayed with Grandma till she died in 1932. But Mother had her sewing machine there, and she always made all kinds of doll clothes for me, and she made dresses and all kinds of things for me to wear. And she always worked on weekends because she's working at CNO in Columbus through the week. Then she walked from High Street. She came up the CD&M up to the Powell Road, and then she walked clear across here and brought her suitcase and her material and all the things she'd bring for me at the weekend. I was the only child, and I fought their wedding like everything because this man was going to take my mother, and I didn't want him to take my mother. But it's a good thing he did because I had a wonderful life. But that's where she did her sewing. And she made all kinds of dresses that Grandma hated to iron. She made little petals on my sleeves with a little center in, and Grandma had to take the iron and go, like this. Grandma says, what did she do that for? This room had all kinds of trunks in it. Trunks stacked on top of things. I don't know if I ever got in the back because it was too full. But across here there were shelves. And Mother had all kinds of chemicals. Bottles and burners and all kinds of things, and she had them here. Of course, I went through everything. But I don't know if I went through the trunks. They were over in here. But this was a good place for me to be. I would imagine Grandma made this. Grandma Martin made this. I don't know. She did a lot of sewing too. But Aunt Emma made this. That was Grandma's wedding dress. And I only had one girl that could get into it. And that was Juanita. She was the skinniest one. But if you notice the inside, look at the bones. I would never make anything like this. It's lined. It has bones in there. It has lace around the top. And it has all these beads. It is beautiful. And then it has all these gores in the back. She was a good seamstress. And this is the skirt that she made. Of course, I have to take things apart. And look, this is even lined. I should come up on the other end, yes. But it's lined. And I wouldn't have made this either. I sew too, but not like this. Not like this. This is one of her paper flowers that she made and used at her wedding. These are her wedding shoes. And that bookcase that was downstairs had a secret compartment. And these and all the things were in there. Of course, I found that too. So, I was very inquisitive. I always have been. These are suede, but they're very pretty. Look at the size of those things. I couldn't get into those now. And this is a comb. This is one of her combs. I told you she always had her hair up in a sort of a knot back here, and she stuck her combs in. She had her combs in on both sides and had her curls up here. This is her shawl. This is a shawl like Aunt Florence would wear when she came up. See, Grandma didn't go down to Aunt Florence's because she had me and she had Rhea. So Aunt Florence always did the coming up. She always came up. This she'd throw around her shoulders, over her head, and she took it off and she got here. And the form is probably the form. That's probably the form for the dress. Grandma's curling iron. That's a Marcel curling iron. That's not like Grandma had. She just had one. Yeah. This was a pantry when I was here, and Grandma had a cupboard. It stood over that high, it was that wide, and then it had a couple doors down. There was a space in between where you could put stuff on the cupboard. This is where she kept her cookies, and that's where I always came to get a cookie. But the rest of the room I don't remember. I just remember that cupboard, and I have it at home. It's a nice big cupboard, and the rats have been in it. When Daddy had it, he stored lard in the bottom, and the rats got in it. We took it home, and they said, take it to the dump. But we took it home and cleaned it all up. It's beautiful. Grandma had a table like this, except it was oh, twice this length. And it sat along the side here. And my place was always at the end. And for breakfast, Grandma would give me toast and chocolate, cocoa she called it. And I would dunk my toast in that cocoa. And then, of course, I had little dots of butter, homemade butter on top of my cocoa and bubbles. And Grandma would always say, you get the bubbles out and then that'll make you rich. You gather up all that money. The butter, of course, was homemade. She made her own butter. And she told me I ate too much toast. It was 7 cents a loaf. Whenever she ran out, I had to go up to the store and get a loaf of bread. But she told me I ate too much toast because there just wasn't much money. This is the cellarway. And in the cellarway was a separator. And I would turn the separator to change the milk into skim milk and cream. And then Grandma went downstairs, and she didn't. We had to turn the cream first to make butter. And after she made the butter, she took it downstairs, and she would pat away with her butter paddle. And she had a definite design that she always put in her pound butter. And then, of course, she would sell that. This table would be probably from here clear past that register, maybe a little ways. And Rhea sat here. Now, remember, Rhea was in her wheelchair. And so I would get under the table and I'd come out and I'd pinch her toes, or I'd tease her. And she'd come over and she couldn't get under the table to get me because it's over there, you know. The light hung over the table, and it was a light that is similar to the one you have in the front bedroom or the parlor. It had a globe over it, and it went up and down. And we always pushed it up and down. It had those little crystal pendants hanging all the way around it. And then over in this corner, behind Rhea, was Grandma's buffet. And Grandma said every time I came, I straightened her cupboard up, and I cleaned her house, and she couldn't find anything. Then here was Grandma's rocking chair, where she would sit. And here was a square laundry stove. And she would put her boiler on full of water, and she would heat the water to wash. These are some more of the clothes that Emma made, Aunt Emma. This is one of the vests that Aunt Emma made. And again, it is lined with this bone lining and all fixed up and all overcast and little tiny buttons on it. And Grandma probably made the buttonholes because she made the buttonholes for Aunt Emma. Aunt Emma didn't have time to make buttonholes evidently, but she did the rest of it. It's all gold in the back. It's beautiful. Well, it was beautiful. Then this is more of a, when Grandma got bigger, she couldn't wear such little things. And this is one of the jackets she wore. It's heavy, again it's lined. And she has an inside pocket. Hey, there's something in there. No, not nothing in it. It's just the way it's made. It looks like a pocket. But it's nice material. The materials they used were beautiful. And she wore black shirts, and she would wear a black skirt, a black top, and a black bottom. And Grandma could dress up, she really looked nice. Again, you have the webbing inside. That made it stick out over your bustle. They had bustles in those days. Grandma looked sharp when she's all dressed up. This is a casserole, and Grandma always put macaroni and cheese in it. And that's been in the family a long, long time. The can comes apart. You heat your macaroni, and then you put it in here. That's just to serve it with. When Aunt Lyde came up, Aunt Lyde lived down the river. Aunt Lyde was Grandma's half-sister. And so when she came up, we had to clean the house, and Grandma did extra cooking. Like she would have fried chicken, mashed potatoes, succotash, beans and corn together. Succotash. She would have red jello, in other words, strawberry jello with bananas in it. She would have smear case, or cottage cheese. She would have coleslaw. We had a feast when Aunt Lyde came out, but that didn't happen very often. Grandma's cook stove was here. Her big old cook stove, and she could just make anything out of that. And on the back of it, she put her milk that we separated, and it would clabber, and then she would take a knife and stir it all directions, and she would put that in a sieve and take out the clabber and take the whey and give it to the chickens because she never threw anything away. She had a great big oval table here, and on this big oval table, she had all kinds of pie crusts, all kinds of noodles, all kinds of everything that she was cooking. She had chairs here. No telephones, no electrics, no furnace, no bathroom, no nothing. Then over here, there was a wall up to here because there was a doorway. And behind this wall, there was feed sacks that she had her feed in here for her cow and her chickens. And in that corner was a sink with a pitcher pump. On this side of the wall was a cupboard similar to that one. And it was here on this side of the wall. And Mother was going to school and she did experiments just like I did when I was teaching school. She was taking some bones and she took some bones and heated them, and I don't know what she wanted to pulverize them or what she wanted to do. But anyway, I was standing right beside her, and the alcohol must have caught on fire. Anyway, it got my whole face, and of course that ended her experiment. And she called Dr. I think his name now. She called the doctor. He put a white lead material on my face, left a place for my eyes, and 2 holes for my mouth or my nose, and a slit for my mouth, and I was in pain, and I laid on that couch in the other room. I don't know how long, and for years afterwards I had scars, but today I don't have any scars. The cement porch out here went out as far as the corner of the house and clear across, and came back. The cistern pump was over there for the bedroom window, and Grandma had her 2 tubs out there, and her I can't say that. Well, anyway, she washed out there, and she would rinse them and then hang them up. Over here was her coal bin or her woodshed, and you went back this little alleyway here to go to the toilet. She had a cow barn, a chicken coop, and an ice house out there. The chicken coop had screen around the outsides, but for me to get in there, I had to go down and come in the door on the east. And I learned that there was screen up above the roof of the inside the chicken coop. And then on the south side of the chicken coop, there was burlap up sacks that had been tacked up there. And you could see them hanging down. I thought, what's up there? So I took a rake and I poked, and the eggs came down. So, and the ice house was a great big building, and Uncle Jim, that was Grandma's brother, they'd go across the road over here to the pond, and they cut out big chunks of ice, and they put it in the ice house. The ice house had 2 layers, an inside wall and an outside wall, and in between was sawdust. And that's the only reason I think Grandma could make Jell-O, or that she could keep her milk, because I can't think of any way that she stored her milk or anything, unless she used the ice from the ice house. On this side was a big maple tree, and since I was the only child here, and I had to play with myself, I used that maple tree as my house. And wherever the branches hung down, that might be a window. And I could play for hours out there. I could take the leaves and make dolls, or I could do anything. But one day, I buried one of my dolls. And I buried it out here south of probably the bedroom window in the ground. So probably there yet, but it hasn't disintegrated. You see, there was a walk that went right from the front porch, right straight out. And then there were steps down the hill right. And I would go out and sit on the steps, and I watched Iris Lowry go to school. She taught school over there. She was Uncle Jim's daughter, Grandma's brother. And I would see her go to school. I'd see other people go to school. I would see these funerals go past, and I'd watch them all the time. So I had a funeral out there, and I buried my dog. This is Dr. Camel. I was born April 2nd, 1912, and Mother had him come and take care of the delivery. And the same day, Lovett Taft was born, and he had to have Dr. Talley then. I played all up and down that creek, and I was always looking for minis or crawdads or anything I could catch. I wasn't afraid of them. And I would play there, and I looked under the bridge, and one day some boys came along and they threw stones down there, and I looked up to see who was there, and I hit me in the eye. Of course, that ended that for a while. We used to slide down that hill on our sleds from the top of the hill clear down into the pond. Of course, it was frozen over with ice. We did that too for fun. I had all kinds of things I did for fun by myself or with one of the boys. Sadie Moran lived right over there. And since I would go uptown to get Grandma's bread, I would probably dawdle along the way, and I'd go over and see Sadie. She was an old woman. I don't know how old now because she seemed old then. And I would visit with her. And then I'd go next door and I'd visit with Julian and Wealthy and Lucille. They had a pet crow, and their pet crow, they had cut his tongue, and they could talk. I was fascinated with Lucille and her family. And they had a swinging bridge out behind their house up here. And I liked to go across there, but Grandma didn't let me go very much. She just said, "You gotta stay home, you can't go other places." And I kept going up and down the street. And of course, Nellie and Drew lived up here in this, used to be a grocery store, but it's a home now. It's, there's a Pounds live back along the driveway. Pounds did live back along the driveway. I don't know who lives back there now. And of course, it's all changed. But Sam and Della Salser lived next door. They had two boys, Marvin and Mildred. And there was a hump of dirt out here where the fence ended. That was Grandma's line. And she said, "Don't go beyond that." So I go out there and I'd yell at them before we play with them. Then we go out and we play in the weeds, we play in the barn, we play in the creek, we just do anything. I went to school to May Duffy, and her room was the lower right-hand room. And so at the end of that year, Mother and Daddy were married, Mother and my stepfather were married February 1920. And then I would go up there for a summer. I know Mother canned 100 quarts of cherries that year. And I didn't want to see a cherry again because I had to help see 100 quarts of cherries. And Jean was born in 21, Martha June was born in 22. Then they would send me to Powell to stay with Grandma. And I stayed with Grandma most every year, every summer, parts of the summer, until she died. Of course, she was here, she was at Scott's house, and she was down there at the other house, in 1932 when she died.